What does it say about the state of our so-called free speech when the same people who demand reverence for Charlie Kirk are firing people for quoting him? Yeah, they lower the flags, they issue statements, they praise him as a patriot who just spoke his mind. But if you dare to remind folks of what he actually said, you can lose your job. It's a very different kind of free speech, more like selective speech,
Mm.
more like hypocrisy in HD or 4K. So let's look at the receipts. Matthew Dowd on MSNBC said hateful thoughts lead to hateful words. Hateful words lead to hateful actions. That was too critical for them, and he was fired. Karen Ataya, a respected Washington Post journalist, simply quoted Kirk's own words to show the double standard, to show the selective American outrage. And after 11 years at the paper, overnight, gone. Employees at NASDAQ, Office Depot, Delta, fired or disciplined for social media posts that critiqued Kirk's death or criticized his legacy. At Clemson University, one staff member was terminated and professors were suspended for posting jokes online. Again, they're champions for free speech. Unless yours just so happens to disagree with theirs, then you should be fired or worse. Trust me, they've called for worse. Meanwhile, Fox News keeps Brian Kilmeade on air after he calls for Nazi-style executions of more than 600,000 homeless people. So again, quoting Charlie Kirk can cost you your job, but advocating for state-sanctioned murder, well, in their circles, that sounds like job security. This very, very outright and blatant double standard of power. When Kirk was alive, he said that gun deaths were an acceptable cost for the Second Amendment. He mocked victims of violence and built his entire career and his millions on provoking division. But now, at his death, he's wrapped in the flag, granted national reverence, flags lowered in his honor, his body transported on Air Force Two. But when critics highlight the irony, when journalists and everyday citizens remind the public of his actual words, they're punished. They're branded as insensitive, unfit, expendable. I've even heard people be called disgusting. So once again, political obedience is what's required. Parrot the thoughts and prayers of the right, or learn that speech is not free at all. Conservatives love to shout and complain about cancel culture. When comedians get criticized or when a brand changes its logo, it's a massive outcry. But the actual truth, the loudest free speech warriors are the first to cancel you if you cross their narrative. Again, free speech for me, but not for thee. Reverence for my heroes, but punishment for their critics. If that's the standard, then speech, once again, is not free at all. It's rented, loaned. The landlord, today's political power. And this just isn't about Charlie Kirk. It's about what happens when speech itself becomes partisan property, when truth telling is penalized and propaganda rewarded. We're watching our democracy decay. This is how authoritarian states are built. Not all at once overnight, even though it feels that way, but step by step, firing by firing, silencing by silencing. When you can be punished for quoting someone's own words, then speech has ceased to be about truth and become about blind loyalty. So, as Ramses would say, here's my clapback. If your free speech protections only cover people who praise your side, then you don't actually believe in free speech. You believe in control. If quoting Charlie Kirk is fireable, but celebrating him is patriotic, then I think you can see how the truth itself has become political contraband. And if America's fourth estate can't tell the difference between honoring the dead and silencing the living, then it's not about journalism anymore either. State media with a good graphics department. If you want to honor free speech, start by protecting the truth, even when and if it makes you uncomfortable.
Brilliant. Well said. Um, I wonder this woman that was fired. I'm guessing she was a black woman.
Of course.
Wow. And she quoted Charlie Kirk's own words. What a world, man.